Melanated family, we are back. We are back. Me and my sister Sonia Williams Lewis. Welcome everybody to a brand new episode of the Melanated Convo Podcast, the Sunday version. You know what I mean? We want to give it to y'all on the
Yeah.
weekend, man. Hallelujah. so, so let's get everything in. Thank you for being with me today. I'm your brother Harrison. That's Sonia Williams Lewis. Today
Yes.
we're gonna have an important conversation because it's Father's Day month. So this month I'm actually going to have several conversations with different fathers around the country about the problems they had with their children, the problems they had with the child's mother, how they got through it, how they dealt with those very difficult times early on, you know? And in spirit of that, I wanted to talk to my sister today about how men can empower their women. Like when you are in a relationship or things are going on, right? Because we have experiences where as a man, you make career changes, you do different things in your life, and a lot of times the woman is right there to support you. She got
Yeah.
your back. She's doing different things. If you should have a woman like that, right? But if you have a woman like that that's doing that, shouldn't you do it for her too?
Yeah.
Shouldn't you turn it the other way? Because it may come a time where you aren't doing as good or you need certain types of help, and she could be there for you. So we're gonna get into that. Also, we have a few new stories that we're gonna get into. Like I said, the new format of me and Sonia's show will be we'll discuss some news stories and then we'll get into more of a heavier topic or something that we can kind of touch on that can affect the family. You feel me? Also, go to precisioncreate.com. I didn't wear one of my shirts today, but if you go to precisioncreate.com, you can get the podcast shirts. Sonia got one on. See how it works? See how the universe
Absolutely.
works? You can go to precisioncreate.com to get the shirt Sonia has on. You can get a shirt to represent the podcast, which is the Melanated Convo podcast shirt, which is really nice in my opinion. Also, if you need shirts customized, so if you have a
Yeah.
business endeavor or a hobby or a family event coming up and you want your logo or your image put on a shirt, I can do that for you as well. So go to precisioncreate.com to get that started. In a few days, I'll have some Father's Day shirts as well for Father's Day, but in general, just
Hey.
shirts that express, our love for fathers and what we
Yeah.
do for our families and just some cool shit that fathers can wear. So I'm gonna have that in a few days, right? So let's get into it, family. First news story, Sonia. And this
Yeah.
is something I posted on my Instagram, but I sent it to you, and I think you've seen it already. But we have actually, you know what? What I'm gonna do real quick? There's a news story about this. I'm gonna play the actual audio so everybody
Okay.
can hear what actually happened with this young brother because we have an Asian store owner who actually killed one of our young brothers. So we gonna play the actual news story. Hold on one second, family. Again, thank y'all for tuning in to a new episode of the Melanated Combo Podcast. Man, we're doing this thing on Sunday. You know what I mean? Me and my sisters. So we're gonna get it in. Hold on one second. Let me make sure I mute my screen. Add that to the stream.
We have some breaking news to share with you.
We're starting in Richland County, where the sheriff's department has charged a gas station owner with murder in the shooting death of a 14-year-old boy. The incident happened last night around 8 on Spring Tree Drive off of Park Lane Road in Northeast Columbia.
Yeah, the coroner has now identified that boy as Cyrus Carmack Belton. And we do have team coverage tonight of this shooting, including a big community reaction. We're going to start with News 19's Becky Buds, who is live outside the Richland County Sheriff's Department with more. Becky?
Andrea, according to the sheriff's department, Rick Chow turned himself in just before 3 o'clock. Sheriff Lott says they conducted the investigation as quickly as possible and needed to get all of the facts straight before they charged the store owner.
A tragic incident occurred that the person responsible is being arrested and charged appropriately.
Richland County Sheriff Leon Lott announcing the arrest of a gas station owner who's been charged with murder for the shooting death of 14-year-old Cyrus Carmack Belton.
It's just one of these things you just stand up here and you shake your head because you just don't. Just no reason for something like that to happen.
Lott says around 8 p.m. Sunday night, Carmack Belton went inside a Shell gas station on Park Lane Road near Spring Tree Drive. According to the sheriff, the owner, identified as Rick Chow, accused the teen of shoplifting bottles of water. However, Lott says the teen had put them back in the cooler. Lott stated after a verbal confrontation, Chow and his son chased Carmack Belton down the street. The teen fell, but got back up and ran. Authorities said Chow's son told his dad Carmack Belton was armed, and Chow shot Carmack Belton in the back as he was running away. According to Lott, Carmack Belton was armed with a gun, which was later recovered by deputies near his body. But they determined the gun was not pointed at the men and that the teen was shot in the back, facing away from them. Community members like Sharon Pettigrew are in mourning.
Anytime a life is taken for no cause or something so simple, I'm going to protest and I'm going to speak up about it.
Okay,
There we
so
go.
this isn't the first time that we've seen incidents like this, where people in our community who they're not from our community, so they don't have the empathy. Sometimes they don't even have the love for Black folks. So this Asian man who was also reported that he shot at people before for minor offenses. He shot a dude in the leg because the dude came in the store, and for some reason the dude attacked him, right? So he felt a way about the dude attacking him, but he shot the dude in the leg. Another incident where some people he thought stole something, he ended up shooting at them too. So I think this is an ongoing type of issue we've had in our neighborhood, where the store owners, a lot of the store owners, and this is in the deep in neighborhoods, but sometimes
Right.
just even on the outskirts, it's store owners
Absolutely.
who are in our community selling us products and services, sending their goddamn kids through college with the sweat off of our back, and then they're very cold. They got a
Absolutely.
they got a big window up or something where you can't even touch them. They treat us like we animals, but they appreciate our money. And this happens a lot, Sonia. That's why when we
Yeah.
talk about starting Black businesses, when we talk about doing for ourselves, these are always prime examples of this, because we don't have Black
Absolutely.
in the city where we at in Sacramento. I don't see any Black liquor stores
No.
in white
No.
communities or in our communities. I've never been to a Black liquor store that I can think about.
Right.
So we
Right.
have all these instances where people that from outside of our community are doing what they can to circumvent our funds, and they don't even fuck with us like that. So
Right.
when you've seen something like this, Sonia, what are some of the first things that you think?
Well, the first thing that I thought, it took me back to, my early 20s when Latasha Harlings down in LA was shot by a Korean woman store owner, under the same assumption that she had stolen some orange juice, which she had not. And so that's what it was a trigger, of course. The other trigger that came up is growing up in the Meadowview area here in Sacramento. There is a store on 24th and Meadowview, and the kids in the neighborhood complain still to this day that the store owner, when he's working, will always make sure that they know he has a gun, and will wave around the gun and be like, "Get up out of my effing store," and wave around his gun as a fear tactic. So the things, when I think about equity and when I think about community, a couple of things come up. One, there is a lack of cultural responsiveness, that people who are not part of the community that they are working in are siphoning dollars out of that community, right? So there's a lack of respect that's going on. There's no cultural appreciation for those interactions. There's no community building. There's no, let me hire for within the community that I'm working in. So that's one. There's this cultural thing that has been broken. Two, as I just alluded to, there's that economic piece that is very much, I'm taking away from this community, I'm taking it back to where I live so that I can make sure that my family is good. So that's very secondary, but that's very important. I know for certain, because there's been a lot of work and conversations around the Sacramento area and other cities, because I do see it happening more so now in other cities. where Asian owned hair beauty supply stores are hiring within their community. Case in point, right here on Meadowview, King's Beauty, they have a slew of young Black women and men who work that beauty supply store. But it came, like, I'm 50 and that store's been there, you know, the 30 years that I've been acquainted with Sacramento, that store's been there. It's taken at least 40 years for them to get to this point. I would say in the last 5 years, they've done a really, really good job of hiring from the community. So that's second. The third piece is, and I know that some people don't like to hear this because we always have to talk about race, but what are our proximities to whiteness? And unfortunately, the Asian community gets away with, on a larger scale, falling back on, deferring back to where their proximities of whiteness are when it comes to those power struggles. We don't see these things happening in higher degrees when we're talking about people who are from the Indian community, right? Because they, you know, too, are in our communities owning gas stations, right? But we don't hear they're more brown like us. And so I think because visually they see the similarity in melanin, they are less likely to pick up a gun. And that's not to say that there are not issues when it comes to Indian and Black, you know, relationships. I'm just saying that we don't hear the news stories like this when we're talking about these type of relationships. So those three things are critically important: cultural responsiveness, and how do you respect the people that you're working around on a regular basis; economic sustainability, you're taking from and not hiring from the community that you're working in; and thirdly, how are we, like, what is your proximity to whiteness? Because your proximity to whiteness includes power. I can't say that enough to people. Power is like a drug, and drugs get you high. And if you think you high and mighty, you're going to do things that make you feel like I was justified to do it.
Yep. And this is just an example that all of us can use as a reason to attempt to do things for ourselves. I'm not saying every Asian store owner or store owner that's not from our community is a bad person, but there's always like a desensitized feeling about them because they're not from the area. So they can have a few interactions with Black people that they don't like, or they deem that it was kind of scary, but they don't know the history. They don't know the trauma. They don't relate to it the same way. So that can sour them and make them think, okay, now I'm gonna have a gun. Now I'm gonna shoot at everybody. Not knowing the dude, if he did take a bottle of water, here's another thing. He was suspecting him for taking 4 bottles of water. To me, this is a completely racist / not being from our community type thing, because if an Asian kid would have took 4 bottles of water, I'm sure he would have had a little more empathy for him, because water means thirsty. He not robbing you. He not trying to take out of the cash register. If that's somebody Black behind the counter or someone more familiar with our community, they say, hey, man, you need some water. Here, take this water. Bring me the money back. There's different ways to do this, but it all starts with empathy and actually caring about the people that's in front of you. And you mentioned the Asian hair salons. I was reading something about those hair salons a while ago. I ran into an article, Songa, that was talking about the fact that when we look at their the stores where they sell all the Black merchandise and the Black hair and everything, the beauty spots, a large part of why they have those stores is because the companies they buy the hair from in different countries, they work together closely with these countries, meaning you get shut out. So if you're Black and you say, hey, I need to buy all these bundles of hair from Indonesia, these different places, they're gonna raise the price on you. They're gonna make it difficult for you because they're spending the money within their community. You know what I mean? So to me, that's a bigger problem. That's more of an institutionalized problem where they're shutting us out of the profit, but they're coming in our community and making all the money. This happens a lot in different ways. So we need to be aware of that, man, and realize when you see a Black person who's selling hair at like a flea market or like an African marketplace type setup, you got to support them. You can't look at it like it's off brand, because what's the brand? Right now, the only place is like Asian spots. Yeah, the windows got all Black women in it, but ain't nobody for the most part Black in there selling it or primarily benefiting from that shit. So, you know, RP to that young brother. It's a very sad situation. situation, and let me say his name again. His name is Cyrus Carmack Belton, is the 14-year-old brother who was shot by this store owner. You know, we need to wake up, man, and realize let's
Yeah.
let's do it ourselves. Figure out a way to translate this energy and this feeling we get from being so downtrodden when this type of thing happens to getting our own shit. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Now, Sonia, something I wanted to read to you because I've seen instances like this in our community and just in relations, right? So, a young dude wrote a letter, and this is from the Atlanta Black Star website.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is one of their writers or someone wrote in, but he's writing about, the name of the article is "Should I Ask Her to Leave? My controlling mother has unofficially moved herself into my home after a surprise visit, and she's ruining my love life and draining my bank account." So I want to get your take
Yeah.
on this. I want to read a little bit of the articles because it's interesting what some of the stuff the brother is saying. So let me read it to you. "I am in my mid-30s, and some might say I'm a mama's boy, but I prefer to think I just love my mother, and I'm not ashamed
Right.
to show it. Growing up, my
Right.
mother was my everything, still is. My father wasn't around, so we grew a bond that became unbreakable. A month ago, she popped up and surprised me at my house. I live in Texas. She lives in Chicago. She's been working as a nail tech for as long as I can remember. The COVID-19 pandemic proved devastating for her livelihood. Though. So I began supplementing her income, paying bills at the salon and her house, and taking care of everyday comforts for her. Even though she's had a steady boyfriend for 12 years, in large part, I feel like I'm doing the job he should be tackling. Now, mom told me she would be staying for 2 weeks, but 2 weeks have shyly turned into a month, and she's severely crippling my lifestyle. Not only does she dictate what goes on in my household, but she also makes it uncomfortable for my girlfriend to come over. The last time my girl came over, I wasn't home, so my mother had time to really dig her nails in. She made a comment to my girlfriend warning her against getting pregnant and stating that she has a life and she's not a babysitter for us. My girlfriend was mortified and and hasn't been back to my house since. So, Sonia, and this is the thing, right? Because I want to talk to you about it because you have 5 boys, right, who will possibly be dating shortly. And I've seen several situations where, not like this. This was kind of funny to me, but I've seen situations where the premise was the same, where the mom doesn't have a man around, right? The mom
Right.
is a single parent. The
Right.
son has had to become like her one and only type of thing. And then she gets to control in his life. So as a woman and a mother, how do you feel about that? Like because I agree with him taking care of his mom and helping her out. Like that was 100. You should be, hopefully you're able to do that. That was cool. But where's the line, Sonia? Like when did you back off?
So, young man, do I ask her to leave? And I would say no, but I do think that boundaries are important. Okay, so he alluded to that. The visit was supposed to be 2 weeks. It turned into a month, and that month has been hellacious. And I'm being, very facetious when I say hell. But here are the questions that I would ask. I would ask you to add up the cost that it takes for a single parent to parent a child. Is very high. What are the sacrifices that she had to put in?
Wait, so you're not saying he owe her. You're not saying he owe her, Sonia.
No, okay. So yes, part of me is saying, you guys to deal with some things. Like my boys, they have to deal with some things because I'm just that mama. I'm that mama that showed up at your games to be your biggest cheerleader. Like it's been 3 weeks since my son's high school graduation. I'm just getting my voice back. I was screaming so loud at that Gold One arena. Everybody in that arena was hearing me say my child's name. I promise you. Because that's how loud I go in the paint for mine. So I'm asking, this young man to add up the cost. And I'm saying this because I am the mother of 6 beautiful Black boys who I take personal our relationship. And our relationships have been invested with a lot of time, effort, and energy. But I do think that boundaries are important. And I say that because on the side of this young man, I think that it's important when you become an adult to establish, like, you can't come into my space and rearrange things. If I give you a room to stay in, that's one thing, but our common areas, this is how it is. And don't make yourself feel so comfortable that I have to be put into a position to do something that I don't want to do, because mama, baby boy don't want to say you got to go. And that's what I hear in this letter. It's a frustration, right? It's an infringement on one's comfort. And that's, I think, the conversation that's bigger to be had of between parent and child is like, where can we as adults come together and have adult-like conversations regardless of what our relationship is. No, I'm being very facetious because I probably will be that mama. Not that with you. I'm telling you now, and anyone under the sound of my voice, when my boys bring home someone, my oldest is 29, my next one is 25, my next one is 22. When they bring home someone that they're dating, I give her the warning, you might want to run because he ain't ready for no relationship. So I'm that kind of, I'm honest.
Oh, yeah.
I'm super honest. But at the same time, I'm telling her, if you do stay, here are some things that I notice as a woman. If you need these things as a woman, you might have to bite your tongue sometime, because if you want to give him that freedom and flexibility to be a man, he's going to have to grow into that, because I'm just being honest. I would not date my 29-year-old, my 25-year-old at this moment in their lives if I were their age. So I give those kind of caveats to them. I do say to them, I'm not trying to be with no babysitter. So if you want to get knocked up, let's talk about it. Let's talk about what that's going to look like, because you're not dropping no babies off to me. So I think those are legitimate concerns that parents, mothers should be having with their children and their significant others when they become adults. The last thing that I would say is, when know your role as a parent in those relationships, because sometimes our children want to draw us in as adults with the hopes of us taking their side over their the significant other that they are dealing with. And I don't take sides. So, if my child is wrong, they wrong. And I'm going to let both parties know that they're wrong, but there's that boundary thing again. How far do you get into their relationship? The last thing that I would say, yes, there is, I think in this story, I think she's taken a little bit of advantage with him paying her bills and making sure that she's good, especially if she got a man of her own, because that's his responsibility. And so again, this goes all back to boundaries. He has to establish some he got to get, he got to put on his big boy pants, pull up his socks, lace them shoes up and be like, stand 10 toes down and be like, mama, we can't do this. At least we can't do this like this. Here's when I could do this if there wasn't a man in the situation, if you didn't have a job. But we have to get, put that tough love on and set them boundaries.
Yep, and so that was funny, Sonia. She said that would be me. You that hard. But look, having your mom move in, I think is something that you should be in a position to do. Should she be able to live with you for a while? Yes.
Yeah.
I think you owe your parents gratitude.
Yes.
Like you owe your parents respect.
Yes.
You owe your parents reverence, right? And if you do all these things, that may end up being in the form of finances. That may be your time, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But you don't owe them, but you do. Like just you do, right? So I understand that part. And something, because I've seen situations like this, like I mentioned before, that was much worse to me. Meaning, I think when women have kids and there's no man around, there's no father, it's just you and the son. Sometimes you take on more of man-woman roles instead of father, or instead of mother-son roles.
Those are the blurred lines, and it's not fair on the child. It's not. It gives them an undeserved responsibility that they should have never had from the get-go. I firmly believe that. But that goes back to what we've talked about before, is that adultification. We as parents can be guilty of adultifying disqualifying our own children, putting them in positions and having them make choices because of responsibilities that they should never had in the first place.
Adultification, and that's a part of that, because then that young man, you treating him like your husband, now he got responsibilities. Now he think he got to make money. Now he not of the age to work, but now he out there selling dope because my mom is at a disadvantage and there's no man around. So it's like a natural little slot that he feels. And that's one of the reasons why I'm about to bring up that story, because that's unhealthy. That story wasn't speaking to that as much, but that is unhealthy at times. So we need to be aware of that as parents, you know?
Yeah.
All right. So something else I want to play real quick. Very disturbing video. I want to make that clear. Very disturbing video with a black woman and her son. Granted, I don't know if this is her real son. I don't know if this is like a video skit. I don't know if this is some YouTube channel she uses a spoof of some sort. Nonetheless, it's very disturbing. So me and Sonia gonna look at this video real quick, and I want to talk to her about it because I got some comments. And hit that like button, man. Subscribe to the Melanated Convo podcast. Become a member of the family while you're here. All right. So let me hold on one second. All right, Sonia.
It's the gay baby. Gay baby. Gay, gay, gay. Please be gay. Oh. Okay. Be what you want to be, but be gay. Okay? Thank you. Right? No pressure. No pressure, but pressure. Gay baby. It's a gay baby.
Okay, Sonia.
Gay baby.
Okay, so like I said, this could be some kind of spoof or something that's happening, but I think, and I don't think I've mentioned this much on my show, I don't have anything against the LGBT community in whole, especially the ones that are in our community. Like, I understand the work a lot of them put in, like with our protests, our movements. They're a part of literally everything that we do in Black society. Rioters, a lot of them. Like that's a fact. But this country, man, this country, how they propagate things to us, how they manipulate situations using institutions and shit like that. So this black woman, to me, if she's serious, Sonia, it could be a product of the world we live in. It can be a product of now every TV show I cut on, there's a gay character. And let me be clear, they deserve representation.
Absolutely.
You should see yourself on the screen or wherever you're looking. As Black folks, we know how it feels not to have that. So I'm not saying they shouldn't have representation, but sometimes I feel like the propaganda behind it. Sometimes I feel that it's being forced on us almost. And their movement, the political side of their movement, has made strides we ain't even made yet.
Right.
I'm not going to deny that. You see what I'm saying? So this video is like a microcosm, because she could be out of her mind a little bit too. There's so much shit that could be going on. But this video is a microcosm of a bigger society that we live in that may make you think. I know the problems they go through and just the condemnation and how somebody may look at you. But in today's day, if you say anything, if you don't like something about their lifestyle, you homophobic. If you mention your disdain for something you're witnessing, you can get chastised. You see what I'm saying? So it's a lot going on with that, but we need to be aware.
We definitely need to be aware. Let me first start off by saying it's June. So happy Pride to those who stand in solidarity, those who are part of that community, because again, I think at the end of the day, as being a cisgender male and female, we both recognize that there are people within our community and have always been part of our community that we question. Like, I mean, we didn't, when we were kids, I know for me, I didn't have the language around being able to have an articulate, intelligent conversation about the LGBTQIA plus community, right? I try to be a better steward of what that means today, because I work in spaces where these are things and issues that come up. What I will say, just along the line of what you just shared, Harrison, is that there are times, there have become a more familiar familiar, a more giving, a more space to make sure that representation for the LGBTQIA community is more prevalent than that of the Black. So they have surpassed us in lots of areas. But I also want to remind people that when something happens in our community, I'm sorry, because they feel the double stripe, the double whip, the double backlash of what injustice feels like, they show up more quicker sometimes than, and I'm just going to be honest, than Black men, right? So because I've been in organizing and movement spaces, oftentimes it is Black women only, or Black women and someone who is LGBTQIA. And so I have to say that first and foremost, I think that the message in this video is extremely dangerous. I do believe that, I'm a God-fearing Christian woman, but I'm not a scientist. I don't know biology the way that doctors and scientists know biology. I don't know brain chemistry the way that they can decipher when someone is experiencing their sexual identity and their attraction to others. I don't, but at the same time, I don't also want to judge somebody. That's not my place. I'm saying for me, I know that I am a cisgender female. My attraction is to men, and that's been my life experience. I'm not going to condemn someone else's experience. I have conversations with young Black men because I have young Black men as children on a regular continuum. And the conversation, it goes a little bit like this. We are being fed this notion that this kind of behavior is okay. And I agree to a certain extent that it is being shoved down our throat. But I don't also want to dismiss that when we walk out the door, there are living human beings that we run into every day where this is a reality. And so we can't separate the two. Do I think that no, I'm trying to get away from saying I think. Do I know that this world is dictated and predicated on white supremacy? Yes. White supremacy means that white men are going to be heard, centered, and lifted, more so valued from their perspective than anybody. That includes white gay men, white queer men, white trans men. So we can't blur the lines that these are the people in control. So if they are in control in these spaces, we can't be questioned. I mean, there's no wonder why. We can't be surprised by why these things are taking place. I think that also, lastly, that Black women have been traumatized the most in this country. And I can't assume whether or not this woman is a queer woman or not, right? But my assumption is that she's been hurt in relationship. She's been hurt by straight men. And therefore, she might feel as though, and that's a perspective and conversation that we need to have as a community as to why a Black woman would be wanting for her son to grow up and be gay. A baby can't, at this point, that baby at that stage of development, that's not on the radar of what that baby is thinking, producing, nothing's coming out of. So if the goal for her is that she is going to raise a Black gay baby, I think she's doing a disservice. And it's almost like those Mormons. It's almost like those people who are part of cults. And no shade to the Mormon religion, but oftentimes when we talk about certain religions, it's an indoctrination that you don't have the freedom and flexibility of choice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so those are that's why I said this is dangerous. And that's why I don't like it. I'm in solidarity, stand 10 toes down when it comes to LGBTQIA rights. More specifically, let me be very clear. More specifically, Black gay rights, Black trans rights, because there are some racist shit that go on every day in the LGBTQ community that we don't know about because we are cisgender, right? We don't even care about because we say, oh, that's removed from my experience. I ain't got to deal with that and what they get is what they get because they chose to be that way. I think that we remove ourselves from those relationships because it's easier. I have a queer bonus child. I have a queer granddaughter. I have a queer bonus. nah, I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna say one thing to them and act differently in these streets. Not gonna do it.
Yep. And I think that's the thin line that we're all walking, because sometimes we get, and I'm gonna be honest, I felt like sometimes in our community we get the homophobic tag,
Yeah.
right? When I've
Yeah.
been around people, and sometimes what I'm witnessing is just ignorance. I'm
Absolutely.
witnessing not understanding something, not knowing,
Absolutely.
being just unaware of how you can make somebody feel, because
Yeah.
we all have always had gay people in our family, and sometimes we don't talk about it like we should, but these members of our family get treated the same way. I don't remember them being outcasted
Right.
because of their sexuality, but like you said earlier, we just didn't have the language to kind of
Yes.
articulate what we were watching. They didn't have the language to articulate what they were seeing,
What they were experiencing. Yeah.
so I like the representation of someone who was downtrodden, like Black folks, someone who had something they had to go through that could have been traumatizing, that you have a support system for it. But like you mentioned, the powers that be in this system sometimes can pervert these things and turn it against us, or pervert it
Yeah.
and use it for political gain. And that's the part of the shit that I don't like. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So this woman
Absolutely.
saying she wants a gay baby, something's wrong there. Because I don't
Something's
think
wrong with her.
definitely not the child. I don't think
Yeah.
kids should be exposed to that type of stuff. I think a child's going to naturally morph into what they're going to be. I don't think if my kid is
Absolutely.
5 or 6 or 7, I'm going to say, hey, they're gay already, and I'm a no.
No.
Let them grow up and be who they're going to be, and you'll see. And if that is the way they choose to go, just support them. It's not that difficult to me. You know what I
No,
mean? I think
not at all.
the politicizing of it and everything that's been happening lately makes it seem like it's this big war. But if you're a genuine person with love in your heart, you can say, I have nothing against you being in this community, and I love you, even if you're a religious person. I know religious people who
Absolutely.
don't believe in the lifestyle but love the person that, you know what I mean? There's ways to go about that. So hopefully this sister gets some help. But just in our community, we need to look at these things seriously. Like, we can't force things on people, but
Yeah.
allow your kids to be who they're gonna be.
Absolutely.
Don't be judgmental, but understand that propaganda, and there are several institutions that kind of put things in play, but the overarching thing of all of this is racism and
Absolutely.
white supremacy, because we're not doing it to each other.
And let me say one last thing, because for us as Black folks, oftentimes you said that label gets put on us if we say something that we don't understand or completely, grasp the concept, that we are, shunned in the greater community for, and have that backlash of being canceled. Because and I think we can have several examples, right? Dave Chappelle went through it for a moment after a skit that he did. I think that we have to be better stewards on what it means to be in community with one another. And when I say that, I mean that we have to let go of some of these white, I really get bugged by this. A lot of these white supremacist notions that gender norms are what they are. Because like I can remember being a kid and my mom was like, you gonna know how to change your tire, change your oil. And traditionally, those are things that men are supposed to do. Conversely, as a mother of 6 Black boys, my boys know how to cook. They know how to clean. I've tried to show them how to sew, because I don't want them to have to rely on a woman in a relationship. I want them to want a spouse, a partner in relationship. So I don't want them to have to get anyone to take care of duties that are your regular everyday needs, right? So gender norms need to be part of the conversation that we have, because I don't think a job of taking out the trash is a boy job, right?
True.
But I'm telling you that as the woman of my household, I ain't taking out the trash. I'm just being honest, right? Right.
I feel you.
But we do legitimately have to have some conversations about gender norms, because I'm not going to be mad at the little boy who comes to me and says, I want to put on your heels and walk around the house. I'm not, there's going to be a conversation, but I'm not going to beat his ass. I'm not going to try to beat out the exploration of what it feels. Martin Lawrence has, what was the character? Shanae, right? Will Smith has dressed up as a woman. All of the who's our old, oh my God, I could see his name. Not Red Fox. What's the other comedian back in the day? Dressed up as a woman. So we can name all of these comedians that dressed up as women, right? We didn't condemn them for the exploit. What does it feel like to put on a bra and stuff a bra? You know, I challenged one of my boys, I'm not gonna name what name, one year for Halloween. They had, two of them had done something. I was like, I ain't buying y'all no costumes, no nothing. If you want to go out for Halloween and trick or treat, you need to make you an outfit from home. And I challenged one of them. I was like, let me dress you up as a grandma. That wasn't me intentionally wanting to emasculate or indoctrinate him to be a woman. It was, we had just watched the movie with Martin Lawrence, where he dressed up as the old lady and you know, he was a police officer. We had just watched that, Big Mama, right? It wasn't like I'm trying to take something away from his character as a boy and a masculine boy. It was just like, I want you to understand these are the things that this might even be funny, or this might be. We don't have to cancel each other for that, but we do have to have very clear, critical conversations about gender norms in this country, because I'm not going to get mad at a little boy who wants to put on a little makeup or put on something like, oh, ha, ha. These are things that we don't know if they're going to grow out of. And if they don't, we also need to let them know that it's okay. I'ma still love you at the end of the day. And conversely for girls, I'm not gonna get mad at you. One of my grandbabies from the day she was 5 years old was like, I'm going to play football. I'm gonna be rough and tough just like them, Nana. And I don't want nobody to be mad at me because I'm a little bit more rough around the edges. And she is, we've had conversations like, are you a they or them, or do you consider yourself a him? She's like, I am a woman 100% all the way down, but I like girls. I like women. And you might look at me. We might be walking through the mall and someone might mistake me as a boy. And don't be mad, Nana. Don't be mad at it. So all I can do is our heart is love first. Our interactions with people is relationship. We don't have to condemn people for who they are and gender norms, because we've been conditioned under the system of white supremacy. I'm going to say that all the time, says that we are supposed to be X, Y, and Z, when it might be that we are J, K, and L and M, and people get mad at it because they don't know how to, they haven't massaged that muscle of difference.
I completely understand that. And that's all that makes sense. Now, here's the thing, because I'm listening to you talk, and I'm slightly not that evolved yet. So I have nothing against like any gay brother and sister around me. I'm not going to treat them different at all. Right. But if I had, because I have all my kids are older now. Right. If they were 6 or 7, or my grandsons become 5 or 6 and they want to put on makeup, I don't know how I would handle that.
Right.
So I don't know the level of comfortability I would be able to use. But ultimately, if that's something they wanted to do as an adult,
right,
I'm not going to condemn them, because I know people, I will say this before we end, I know people who say, I don't got no problem with my gay son or nephew or cousin, but don't bring that shit around me. And I tell them, you can't do that, because I know I've known gay people who move to a different city or go to somewhere they feel comfortable. Think about committing suicide, all this shit, because of the non-acceptance from the people around them. So we got to figure out a way. I just want to make sure there was no molestation going on. But nothing happens that I have to be responsible for. But if this is a natural thing, I don't see how it isn't something somebody's born, like, in my opinion. But whatever. But that's something we need to talk about in our community. Sometimes we're ashamed to have conversations about the gay people in our community, and let's get it out there. Like, how do you feel about them and why? You know what I mean? The why is the important part. So
absolutely. I'm just glad we made space, for that conversation, because that's something I think that we as Black folks, we don't have often enough.
We don't, and we need to. All right. So title of the show. I want to talk to my sister today about, because in spirit of Black history, or Father's Day, this month is Father's Day, and I'm gonna do some shows with fathers surrounding Father's Day and what we need to do and their experiences. All that is very helpful to our community. But also we need to talk about how we treat our women. How we show up for a woman, right? Because I know men who don't mind, getting a woman flowers, paying bills, listening to her talk, bringing
Right.
her places. It's I know a lot of good men who do things, but at sometimes I think, Sonia, we don't understand the levels that it can go to, like how
Yeah.
much we need to empower our women at times when things aren't as good, right? So
Right.
this can be when she gets a new job. This can be if she's in a situation where she makes more money than you. This can be a
Yeah.
situation where she just had a baby and now she looks a particular way. So I wanted to have a conversation, Sonia, about how do we show up for our women? Like, what's the best way
Yeah.
to show support for your woman when she's going through things? Because just like in any kind of relationship, I think when things are good, it's easier. When things are good and we're laughing and we're joking and money's flowing, things are good. But what happens if, you know, because I've seen men support their woman, like they have the man's making the money and the woman's going through something financially. Hey, I'll help
Yeah.
you. Hey,
Yeah.
whatever. Let's talk about it. But what happens if you lose your job, man? And now she's making all the money, but let's say a lot of money. Let's say she makes
Yeah.
a lot of money, a lot more money than you. How do you deal with the societal pressures? So
Yeah.
so what do you think when you think of conversations like difficult conversations for men where it's almost like you're being put in a subservient position as a man or a position that society doesn't think you should be in? What's your view on that type of thing?
Ooh, you are asking me to be very vulnerable and transparent in this moment, in the sense of like, this is completely my life story. This is my life story that I've watched with my parents. This is my life story that I have firsthand experience with my spouse, my husband of 25 years. These are the struggles that I think because um I have chosen as a response. I think that I'm very responsible. I think that I'm very analytical, and I don't just quickly jump to some conclusions of why I am the way that I am. But because of the rearing that I've had, I'm very outspoken. And I think that women oftentimes can fall into the trap of, again, gender norms of this is what it means to have be a traditional wife. This is what it means to be in a traditional relationship with a man. And so we get caught up in this the the romanticizing of relationships, right? And that our reliance is on the man, and that we can't be the breadwinner of the home, and that we don't want to emasculate. I don't want to emasculate a man or a woman, right?
Mhm.
I, just as much as men talk about women being, ooh, why you trying to be like a man, and why you trying to be in control, why you trying to be alpha. I've been accused of those things. I've been accused by Black men of being a bully of Black men because I'm outspoken, and because I'm a no nonsense type of
Mhm.
woman. But I don't know any other kind of way to be. And so my struggle in the beginning of, and again, I'm being very vulnerable in this moment, and it's not an easy thing. I struggled in the beginning of my marriage of, ooh, let me hurry up and get home and cook dinner. We both work full-time jobs. We both have stressful, responsibilities in our workplaces. We both have bare children, but I get home and the bulk of the responsibility was left on my shoulders. My shoulders, in the sense of who's going to sit down and make sure that homework gets done, who's going to, wipe away that tear or have that conversation with our children when something that they are emotionally dealing with, who's going to cook a meal and clean the house. Those responsibilities were all put on my shoulders until it start physically manifesting in my body, and my doctor was like, you can't do certain things. And then being the hard-headed Black woman that I am, continuing to do those things because thinking that it's my responsibility, and thinking, who else is going to do it if I don't do it? And
Mhm.
so it took me being diagnosed, no, it took me getting pregnant with my fifth child, and the doctor saying she needs to be on bed rest. And we lived in a 2-story home that had lots of stairs. And the doctor saying she's on bed rest. She needs a refrigerator in her room. She cannot go up and down those stairs. And the one thing that triggered the whole conversation was the laundry room was downstairs. And my husband had to sit down with the doctor, another Black woman. Thank God I had a Black woman OBGYN at the time. And she said to him, she cannot walk up and down stairs. You need to do the laundry. Had that conversation not happened, 13 years later, because that child is now 13, he still does the laundry, because I said, after he started doing the laundry, you've taken something off my plate that has been such a relief. You cannot go back. You cannot go back. This is now your responsibility. 13 years later, he still does the laundry. But when I say that it took an outside person to like make this consideration, I, after that pregnancy, was diagnosed with lymphedema, which meant that my lymph nodes swelled up. I was on a cane, Harrison. I was being threatened with having 4 surgeries, 2 hip replacements and 2 knee replacements. And my doctor said to me, if you don't lose weight, you're going to be immobile for the rest of your life. At that time, my youngest was 4 years old. And so I said, okay, I have to make some changes. Today, I can outrun most, a lot of folks. I'm in the gym 4 or 5 times a week. But these were the things, this infringed upon my husband's manhood, because me taking time away from and going to the gym meant that I might not be able to make breakfast for everybody in the morning. This meant that I was not going to be willing to take the kids to school in the morning. So part of our responsibilities began to shift in our relationships, and we have to be very cognizant of the pressure that we put on women. And I don't think that it's something that only men put a pressure on women. I think that women put that pressure on themselves, because had I gone into my relationship with my husband and said, we got to do a better job of, dispensing out the roles in our relationship, maybe the 25 years of burden being on my shoulder, I wouldn't have the animosity. And I'm gonna be honest, I have lots of built up animosity towards my husband and other men, not just my husband, my father-in-law, my brother-in-laws, my uncles, my daddy, all the men in my life. I'm always going at them like, because the reality of it is I see them treat the women in their life just like my husband has treated me. I hear my dad in my ear saying, you're supposed to do that. When I come to visit, make sure that I got breakfast on. No, and no. Get my husband up to take you to McDonald's if you think that you got to have breakfast at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm not that female. I'm not that woman to do those kind of things.
That's interesting, Sonia. Wow.
It's one of those things that I've also stressed on my boys. Being a mother of boys, like, don't put this burden on the girl that comes in your life, the woman that comes in your life, because she's going to resent you at the end of the day. And I just think that relationships require boundaries. Every relationship requires boundaries. We need to know what it is that we'll accept and not accept. But at the end of the day, we also need to know when it's time to change something. Because I wish that if it had not been for that doctor advocating for me, for him to do some of the manual labor in our house, I don't know that I would have said something. Damn. Or I don't know that it would have been received in the same way, right? So I just think that men, if you are supporting the women in your lives, be their biggest cheerleaders in their careers. That's another area that I'm gonna be honest, my business by the men in my life has been minimized. Oh, your little business don't pay the rent.
Oh shit, Sonia. I didn't know I was keeping it real this Sunday. This is something we needed to talk. I had no idea my sister was going through this type of stuff in just that perspective, but I had to realize not only do I do it to women at times, but early in my life, I realized, so look, my woman has made more money than me, right? And that didn't bother me, because I don't let outside forces really affect how I see things, because I know my goal, like I know my passion, I know where I'm headed, right? But something I was thinking, I was like, you know what? Me and her, we're gonna start doing it on the fly. But in the beginning, we should have established what's gonna be the rules in this house. Now we end up doing it where I'm not gonna lie. there aren't many traditional roles in my house. Now, I don't
Right.
want her to get dirty. I'm not going to send her to the door if somebody knocking late at night.
Right.
I'm not,
Right.
there's certain things I'm going to put in place because I want to protect her. But other than that,
Absolutely.
dishes, washing, Sonia, we break that shit down 50-50.
Absolutely.
Damn near, you know, and then sometimes we
Right.
have little battles about, hey, you should be doing that, you should be doing that. But couples, realize this, man. The rules in your house is set by you.
Yeah.
How we was raised, examine all that shit. How your daddy was raised
Absolutely.
and your mama and your grandma was raised. That's just not what relationship. That's what the food we eat. That's what the traditions that we uphold. Why are you upholding these traditions that you didn't help create or you weren't around when they was created?
Absolutely.
Break all that shit down and say, you know
Absolutely.
what? And this is how I see it, Sonia. What religion are we? What kind of God we gonna practice in this house? What kind of Christmas we gonna have in this house?
Right.
Easter
Right.
thing in this house. Fuck what your friends are doing. And here,
Right.
this is how we gonna do it. Because if we just relied on what's happening in the outside world, none of us would be happy because we're all individuals. So some
Right.
of us aren't good at this thing that society
Yeah.
says you should be good at. I don't like changing tires, okay?
Right.
I know how. I can
Right.
change a tire, but I don't like it. I know how to
Right.
use tools, and I'm gonna
Right.
put my hand in some dirt and get that
Right.
shit, but I don't like doing that shit.
But I don't like doing right.
Nobody's gonna make me like. So if you're in a relationship with somebody, you got to figure out, okay, how we gonna pay for it, how we gonna do it together. You have to figure all that out, or somebody's gonna be unhappy. In the traditional woman role, I want to tell
Yeah.
all men this: the
Yeah.
traditional woman role that you may have in your mind. I'm gonna make a lot of money, and a woman is gonna shut up. Let's keep it real. That's how men. A woman's gonna
Right.
shut up and do what I say and have the food. If she agrees to that, that's what y'all created. But you got to
Right.
have that conversation, Sonia. You got to make sure that's
Absolutely.
what because there are women, keep it real, Sonia. There are women who don't want to do nothing, who don't want to work or do nothing. They want to be taken care of, and they'll do the
Yeah.
chores. There are women who
Absolutely.
have that more traditional mindset. If that's what you want, man, you can find that, but make that clear with your partner. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can tell you that there was a time we were in a couples group, and the goal of the couples group was that we wanted to make sure that Black love is a thing and that Black families stay together and that these relationships were sustained by supporting one another. So once a month, my husband and I would join these other Black couples and have conversations, just break bread, just have conversations. But I will never forget when one of the men, one of my friends from high school, her husband, said to my husband, your wife act like she want to wear the pants in the relationship.
Mhm.
And it was when Harrison, when I say that I was like so bothered, I didn't feel like he defended my honor because he was like, oh yeah, she can be like that sometimes, but he didn't say like, okay, and what's your problem with it? But the conversation went on with little digs over time where I was uncomfortable and I was like, I can't be around him. I can't be around a man who is going to be so egotistical and so macho that he can't see the value of my voice and the importance of hearing what a woman has to say. His wife might allow him to do that in their household because that's the way that they've set up their household. But what we ain't gonna do in this space is you as my husband is not going to allow for another man to shut me down when you know I ain't wrong. And that bugs me to no end. That protection for me as a Black woman, the way I feel protected is if my spouse makes sure that they standing right there beside or in front of, if need be, if some shit go down. Not that you just gonna stand there and be like, ha ha ha, kiki moment, fist and all that, or bruh, I understand, but let us get out of here so that we don't cause, a rift in the relationship of in the dynamics of our friend group. I'm willing to let somebody go who don't value my voice, and I don't care who. I'm gonna keep it a buck. If you don't value my voice, I'm gonna let you go. And it's been so much so of a strain that as of late, like I said, I'm gonna be vulnerable and transparent. As of late, it's caused rocky relationships rocky relations in my marriage, because I know what I bring to the table as far as career wise. I know that I contribute to my house from the outside just as much as my husband does. I know that I'm present for our children in a way that he has never been. And it's caused that, like, I resent you, but it's also caused me to rebel because I've been forced to protect myself. Right.
Mm.
And so if you put a woman in a situation, a strong Black woman in a situation where she feels like she has to protect herself, it might come off as man bashing. It might come off as I'm trying to wear the pants. It might come off as I'm trying to be something other than what I am. But at the end of the day, the core of what I'm trying to be is heard. I'm trying to be valued. I'm trying to be validated, and I'm trying to be protected in relationship. So if you want relations where you don't have, where you ain't, bucking up against the system, and we ain't doing like this, like two rams, then let's have conversations about what those boundaries are. Let's have conversations about what I need. What's my love language, and what do I need in this moment? Because if we don't respect the needs of each other, oh Lord Jesus, there's going to come some cracks sometimes that we can't get over because it's too far to jump. The hurdle is too high.
Because I know in a lot of topics I create, because I get personal, but I try to protect the people, because people have told me, bro, that was that was none of their business. I'm like, yeah, I guess you didn't ask to
right
have your life story on my show. So I try to frame the conversation where I deal with it myself, but just put it out there. That it's all something that we're dealing with. And I have struggled with this too, Sonia, where not being present, like not being attentive and being in the moment when something needs to happen in my relationship. A lot of times, just my personality sometimes, and I make sure I battle this. I fall back. Something happens, and opposed to moving forward, I'll fall back because I know that she's used to doing it, or I know that in my mind, I'm like, well, no, she likes doing it. Well, she probably don't like doing it, but the shit got to get done.
It got to get done. So she defaults and does it.
See, so I'm being better at saying, you know what? She's mad because I read a book, and I'm almost done with it, called The Way of the Superior Man by David Dieda, I think it is. I'm going to send this book to every man I know, like for birthdays and holidays. I'm going to send this book to every man I know, because your woman's reactions to things, a lot of times, fellas, aren't based on that moment, right? It's not based on the exact incident that's happening right there or right then. It's a build up. But the one, what are you doing, Ginger? Hold on 1 second, Sonia. She didn't. There we go. See, she didn't came in the room and she heard what I was talking about and cut my lights off.
Gotta love it.
That was so good. She was like, "Shut up." Okay, right? but that's real, and I had to realize that in those moments, like as a man, you have to kind of step up. You have to do things, because if not, you can put something on another person, and then she comes to you about this started 7 years ago, but she's talking about a water bottle right now. But it's not about the water bottle. It's not about the thing that's right there. And as a man, especially a man like myself who was raised by a woman, sometimes she's kind of yelling or kind of a little more hyper and emotional, and I join her. Men, you can't join her on her emotional roller coaster. If she's a little loud, if she's a little expressive with her hands in her mouth, the worst thing you can do is get to that. Now, you don't want to tolerate no disrespect, but you don't want to get there too. Now, both of you guys are emotionally charged at each other, when you just need to calm down and ask more questions. Calm down, ask more questions, see how you can help and be of service. But men, we have to realize sometimes it's almost in us to back up when like a chore needs to happen or something around the house. It's almost innate. Even us men who didn't have a man in the house sometimes see, because let's keep it real, everything I've watched says you're supposed to wash the dishes. All the TV shows I watch says that's your job. You see what I'm saying? So we gotta be aware of what we don't know. And go ahead, Sonia.
I was just going to say, and I mean, just these are the things, what we don't know, right? Because when I hear, and this is not any, no jab at any man, right? But when I hear a man quantify my emotion without asking me what my emotion is, so maybe she wasn't angry, maybe she was frustrated. right? So ask me. That's part of communication. And sometimes I think men are so hands-on and their mind flips to how can I fix it instead of how can I listen. And so it's about balancing the use of all of our muscles. God made us all, you know, we all have 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth for a reason. It's for us to take in more information here and here and put out less of this, right? Or at least make the stuff that comes out of this more impactful. Because I know that that's one of my triggers. How you gonna tell me that I'm angry? I'm not angry in this moment. The other thing that I get really, you know, a little level of pistivity is when someone, especially a man, tells me that I'm yelling. Like I can be using a very assertive, passionate voice and not having raised my voice whatsoever, but the tone of my voice, you know, I ain't fucking around, period. You know that I'm not playing in this moment, so don't play with me, but I'm not yelling at you and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you, but I get super anxiety sets in for me when I am violently yelled at. When a man violently yells at me and is towering over me, it takes me to a place. It takes me back to 13-year-old Sonia when I had an uncle who literally tried to choke me to death. That's what it takes me back to. But if that man that I'm interacting doesn't know that that's what my trigger is, and that's 13-year-old Sonia is showing up, because 13-year-old Sonia is coming out swinging, right? Because 13-year-old Sonia, her life was put in danger. If we don't know the bags that we've carried to get to these points in our lives, then we are doing ourselves a disservice in any of our relationships, because at the end of the day, we don't know what the response might be. And you don't ever, as a man or a woman, want to be put into a predicament where we don't know where the outcome is coming for or where that emotion is coming from, because we don't know the person that we're dealing with.
Ain't that something? Ain't that something? It's Sunday. We having church in here today.
Church. Let's have it. Hallelujah. Amen and amen.
Because that's real talk. Like just as a man, sometimes I think we talking to our friends and the people around us, we present our problem with our woman like we don't understand what's going on. And she's tripping and I don't get it, when some of us don't have the tools to figure out why. That's where I read the book. The book kind of told me, again, The Way of the Superior Man, David Dieta. The book kind of told me, you know, stop acting like your woman. The book separated for me and said some of these things is going to be how a woman acts, but it may not mean what she dig a little deeper. Calm down, be a relaxing force for her, be a steady force, just change the energy in the room. If everything is a particular way, you as a man, you have the energy to go in there and make it lighter. Get some information. Like, don't take an emotional route like a woman would, you know. So it's very, very important stuff. Sonia, so damn, that was good right there. So you said you was being vulnerable. I was too, but we're not the only ones going through these type of things in our relationships. You know what I mean? So people can learn from that. And you know, it's important to support one another. But like I said, I'm a man, so I'm gonna speak from our perspective. It's important that you support your woman through everything. And sometimes you don't know what's going on. Sometimes it's hard for you to gauge what that real issue is, but questions and compassion and really giving a fuck is kind of going to be the reason you can get it solved, you know. And as a man, don't be, you know, some men might like this or may not like this, but the chores in your house, like all the stuff in your house, y'all need to determine who does what. Because me personally, I'm not bigger than nothing. I know how to wash. She taught me how to wash.
Right.
My mom didn't let me wash. My mom just washed my clothes for me. You know what I mean? She taught me how to wash. I want to know because I'm gonna have to do it too. I don't see it like that. If we both bringing money in this house, we're gonna look around this goddamn house and see what we both can do together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So men need to be aware of that, or establish that in the beginning, what you're not gonna do or what you are gonna do if that's your situation. You see what I'm saying? So thank you everybody for tuning in to another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. Me and my sister Sonia back. This was dope, man. We're gonna, like I said, I knew it was important for us to do more of this, you know. So we're gonna talk about news stories, but then we'll talk about something a little deeper, something that we go through in our relationships. And since I have a woman on the show, I'll make sure I angle it to something where, women deal with as well. So hit the like button, subscribe, go to the Melanated Convo on YouTube. If you're watching this on Facebook, share it to all your partners, share it to the people you know. You know what I mean? PrecisionCreate.com is the website where you can get the shirt Sonia got on. You can get the Melanated Convo podcast tee. You can also I'll have some Black Father's Day shirts coming up here in a few days. But if you need a shirt customized yourself, if you need the logo, something I forgot to say earlier, if you need the logo customized as well, I can do that for you. The flyer for a business or an event you have coming up. I've been doing my own flyers for a long time now, so I can do that same thing for you.
Right.
But again, man, this is the Melanated Convo podcast. Thank y'all for joining. Happy to be back on the show with my sister. This was good. I really enjoyed this conversation. I think people are too. So again, thank you for tuning into another episode of the show. We out.